Hello, sissies, gays, and theys. My name is Jonathan, otherwise known as the Stuttering Sissy. I'm so excited to create this platform. I've been thinking about it for a while. I am someone that stutters. I'm also gay or queer, and I just wanted to create a space where pop culture, mental health, and life can be spoken about in an open and candid way. And so I think where I like to start that off is where for people that have a stutter, the first place where we really come into that is at home, specifically with our families. So I think that's what I want to talk about today is growing up with a stutter and what that was like in terms of my family life growing up. And I think for me, I tell people I don't really know when I knew that I had a stutter, right? But I knew how I felt when people would in my family talk to me about it. Most of the time it was in the form of jokes, uh, which coming from your own family like hurt, and it wasn't kind. And you know, I already had to deal with that at school, which that in itself is going to be a whole other little episode. Um, I'm thinking of talking about, you know, growing up in school. So I think that'll be a whole episode of having a stutter and going to school. But yeah, I think with my family, like it was a challenge, right? Because I know that they love me, and I know that when strangers would say stuff about my stutter, they were the first ones to to defend me, but they were also my first bullies in that way too. And I don't say this for like a sob story because I'm sure this happened to a lot of other people that have a stutter, and it just happens, in a lot of families where if you're different, a lot of families will pick up on that because they want you to be normal, whatever that means. I don't think there really is such thing as normal. Um, but yeah, I think, my mom never really talked about it with me growing up. I was held back in school. Um, so I did first grade twice, and I think I went to speech therapy. For some reason, I remember specifically going to speech therapy in fifth grade, maybe fourth or fifth, and I don't remember too much of it. I don't think I was there that long, and the only thing that I remember out of that was that the speech pathologist was saying that there wasn't really much that they could do for me. And for context, I'm a 90s kid, so I think maybe the the things that they were given, the tools that they had, maybe that was at the beginning stages of helping people that had a speech disorder. So maybe they really felt like I would grow out of it, or the person that was, you know, providing me with the care didn't really care so much. And, I would hope that's not the case because you're working with children, but, who knows? But yeah, so I think outside of having that push for help in school, my stutter wasn't really like something that we spoke about or had the whole family around and being like, okay, so like he has a stutter, so how can we support him? No, it was more like, this is something we all lived with. And, I think my family lived with it, but silently. And I'm the only one in my family that has a stutter as well. So, for me, it was isolating because there wasn't anyone that I could really talk to about it. And although there was someone in my childhood that I did know, this wonderful man named Norm, and he was a part of my church. And so he was the first person that I knew who had a stutter. And so that for me, when we were in church together and, I'd hear him have a have a have have a block in his speech, which is what I just did, right? Where like I couldn't really get the word out, so it takes a bit. So that's what that means. And so, it was nice to like just be able to like not rush myself when I was talking to him. And like feel like we could have like a genuine conversation at our own pace. And what I even really enjoyed about our relationship even more is that we both sang in church. And so, I think for me, having a stutter, you know, uh, I think I compensated for that in my childhood. And um, by singing, that was something that I really enjoyed. I sing in church, and Norm sing as well and had a wonderful voice. So I think there are ways for us uh, growing up, I should say for me, that I found outlets to express myself. Another way that I still use to this day is writing. I love writing. I wrote poetry. I just wrote about my life. And, I think that for me, because it's silent, it's like an intrinsic thing more than an external, like singing would be if one chose to sing in front of people. Um, but I think singing and writing were my outlets. Music was my outlet. Um, so, I think for me, while I didn't always feel like I had this supportive family, like I had these external things that I felt, um, not only I felt protective, but, gave me a sense of security and belonging. And I know I said that we would talk about predominantly what it felt like to be with like my family with having a sitter, but I think also this would be a good place to go into with friends too, because, you know, friends were a wonderful form of support. Um, I've always been more of like an introverted person, or that's not true. I think when I was younger, I was extroverted a lot, and because um social factors, the environment, boys were supposed to act one way, and I definitely was a sissy, hence the name of this channel, where I was flamboyant. I liked to dress up in my mom's outfits. Like, I like performing for my family. Like, I just like doing all this stuff. And, we're socialized as kids, especially as boys, to act a certain way. And, one thing that I will say, I am into astrology. So I'm a Taurus, and I've always been stubborn. And, even as a kid, I was like, no, this is who I am. I'm gonna do what I want. And, for better, for worse, my family just kind of went with it. And, you know, I think it was nice to, have friends that either celebrated the things that I liked, like music and TV shows, or, I had extroverted friends that would help to get me out of my shell or to meet me where my um extrovertedness was, and even where my even where my introvertedness was, which was nice. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about like what my family experience was. And I guess, maybe a good way to like kind of close this out is where my relationship with stuttering in my family is now. It hasn't really changed. I think I've spoken to my mom about it, what it's been like to navigate my stutter as an adult. As I've entered the workforce in a career where I talk to people a lot. I also listen a lot as someone that has a background in mental health. And so, how I've navigated my professional career um, and jobs in the past. And I think, sharing that with her, although she cannot fully empathize, I know there's a sympathy there. And, I hope that she understands my world a little bit more. And for those watching and listening, whether you are someone that has a stutter or know someone that has a stutter, like this is the reason why I wanted to create this platform was I've never seen someone like me on a platform. Um, I know that stutterers are out there. I've met a lot. I've been on panels. So I think another purpose of the channel is I would love to have guests come on, not only people that have a stutter, but people that, are in the mental health field or in fields in creative things that I really enjoy. So, this primarily would be a space for talking about, my experiences with having a stutter. I hope to bring other people on to talk about their experiences with having a stutter, but also like pop culture and intersections of other parts of my identity, like sexual orientation, gender, race, all those things that, are kind of hard to, always have a nuanced conversation with. I This is the space that I want to create for those conversations, and I hope you will join me for the ride. Um, but yes, I will link my socials down in the description. Thank you all so much for your time. And if you have any ideas for what you would like for me to cover in terms of being a person with a stutter, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to build the Sissy community. And yeah, I hope you all have a good day. Bye.